What if I told you that some of the most memorable classic American cars weren't designed to please anyone? Designs that didn't aim for consensus, that didn't ask for approval, that split opinions from day one. Cars some people see as masterpieces and others as unforgivable mistakes, because there was a moment in American automotive history when design stopped playing it safe. Manufacturers got bold. They risked entire brand identities. They pushed shapes, proportions, and ideas further than anyone expected. Some of those cars were hated in their time, and today they're icons. Others never stopped being controversial. And here comes the uncomfortable question. Does a design have to be beautiful to be great? In this video, we're exploring classic American cars that went all in on design. 1968 to 1977, Chevrolet Corvette C3. Today, it's considered an absolute icon. But when it first appeared in the late 1960s, the reaction was far from unanimous. Its design felt too radical, even by American standards of the time. A seemingly endless hood, exaggerated curves, flared wheel arches, and a silhouette that looked closer to a futuristic concept car than a production vehicle. For many traditional enthusiasts, the Corvette had stopped being elegant and had fully embraced excess. People said it no longer looked like a serious sports car, that it was too theatrical, too aggressive, that Chevrolet had crossed the line. And in a way, that's exactly what they did. The C3 wasn't designed to please everyone. It was created to make an impact, to represent an America entering the 1970s with less subtlety and more attitude. A Corvette that was impossible to ignore, even when parked. What makes the story more interesting is that the controversial design wasn't just for show. Beneath that debated body, the C3 could be equipped with V8 engines that were genuinely impressive for their time, with early versions producing over 300 horsepower. It accelerated hard, reached high top speeds for the era, and delivered performance that matched its aggressive appearance. That only made the controversy stronger, because it wasn't just a strange car, it was a strange car that delivered. Over time, perception completely shifted. What once looked like excess came to be understood as identity. What divided opinions ended up defining an entire era of American design. The Corvette C3 went from controversial to iconic. Today, the classic car market confirms it. A well-kept example typically ranges between $40,000 and $80,000, while exceptional versions or highly original cars can easily surpass $100,000. A car that was criticized for being too daring, and ultimately remembered for exactly that. 1958. Ford Edsel. Few names in American automotive history trigger such an immediate reaction as Edsel. For decades, it was synonymous with failure, poor taste, and one of the most misunderstood design bets Detroit ever made. When Ford introduced it in 1958, they weren't just launching a new model. They were creating an entire brand, positioned between Ford and Mercury, with its own identity. The ambition was massive, and so was the design. The front grille became the center of controversy. Vertical, oval-shaped, completely different from anything else on the road. Some saw it as futuristic and bold. Many others thought it was simply strange, uncomfortable, hard to accept. The press and the public quickly made fun of it, and the car was labeled before it even had a chance to explain itself. But reducing the Edsel to its grille misses the bigger picture. The rest of the design also broke conventions. Complex lines, a mix of conservative and futuristic elements, and a visual identity that didn't resemble Ford, Mercury, or anything familiar. It was a car that asked buyers for something the late 1950s market wasn't ready to give: patience and open-mindedness. The irony is that, technically, the Edsel wasn't a bad car. It offered strong V8 engines for the time, solid road performance, and innovative features, including unusual controls and fresh interior concepts. The issue wasn't engineering. It was a design that demanded too much from a public that still wanted the comfort of familiarity. The result was almost immediate rejection. The Edsel went from great promise to a cultural symbol of what not to do, and its production run was short, but time, as it often does, has been unexpectedly kind to its legacy. Today, the Edsel is no longer viewed with ridicule, but with historical curiosity. It's studied as one of the boldest design experiments of the 20th century, a car that dared to break the mold when breaking the mold was still risky. In today's collector market, a well-preserved Edsel typically falls between $25,000 and $50,000. A car that was mocked for being too daring, and now survives as one of the most important lessons in American automotive design history. 1971 to 1973, Buick Riviera. After the visual chaos of the Edsel, Buick took a completely different kind of risk. It didn't aim for strange. It aimed for something almost too sophisticated. When the boat tail debuted in the early 1970s, its rear design made an immediate impact. Inspired by luxury yachts and classic boats, that sharply sloping roofline and tapered tail looked unlike anything else on American roads. It was elegant, artistic, and deeply divisive. For some, it was a rolling piece of art. For others, it simply didn't make sense on an American car. The issue wasn't that the Riviera was ugly. The issue was that it didn't fit expectations. Buick was known for conservative luxury, safe lines, and comfortable prestige. Suddenly, it introduced a car that felt more European than American, more conceptual than commercial. The boat tail asked something unusual from buyers in that segment: to understand the design before accepting it. What's fascinating is that beneath its controversial silhouette, the Riviera was still unmistakably Buick. Large, smooth, powerful V8 engines designed for fast, comfortable cruising. It was an elegant grand tourer, wrapped in a body that sparked debate from every angle. The public didn't quite know what to do with it. Sales fell short of expectations, and the design was quickly discontinued. For years, the boat tail was seen as a failed experiment, an excess of creativity at a time when buyers were beginning to demand more rational cars. But time changed the narrative again. Today, it's one of the most appreciated designs of its era. What was once considered strange or misunderstood is now viewed as aesthetic bravery. In today's collector market, a well-preserved example typically ranges between $50,000 and $90,000, with exceptional cars easily surpassing those figures. And now, I want your opinion. Do you see the Riviera boat tail as a work of art ahead of its time? Or an elegant design that simply didn't belong on an American car? Let me know in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of car that defines the spirit of this video. 1975 to 1980, AMC Pacer. This doesn't look like a poorly designed car. It looks like a car designed without fear of anything. From the first glance, it broke every unspoken rule of American automotive design. Short and wide proportions, a rounded, almost inflated body, and massive glass surfaces that made it look like a bubble on wheels. It didn't resemble a sedan. It didn't resemble a coupe. It didn't resemble anything familiar. And that was precisely the problem. AMC wasn't trying to create a beautiful car. It was trying to create a different car. A compact, modern vehicle built for a future where efficiency, visibility, and safety would become priorities. Conceptually, the Pacer was ahead of its time, but visually, it was too much for the mid-1970s public. The reaction was immediate and polarized. Some saw it as fresh and futuristic. Most people simply didn't know how to process it. Its design was so extreme that neutrality became impossible. No one felt indifferent toward the Pacer. You either disliked it instantly or found it deeply intriguing. There was no middle ground. Ironically, from a functional standpoint, many of its ideas made perfect sense. Excellent visibility, a stable stance, and an interior surprisingly spacious for its exterior footprint. But the visual presentation was so dominant that it overshadowed everything else. It didn't fail because it lacked logic. It failed because it had too much personality. Today, that uniqueness has translated into unexpected value. A well-preserved AMC Pacer typically falls between $20,000 and $40,000, with highly original or exceptional examples reaching even higher figures. 1980 Cadillac Seville. When Cadillac introduced the 1980 Seville, it wasn't trying to be provocative. It was trying to be European, sophisticated, and modern. And that's exactly where the problem began. The rear design, known as the bustleback, completely broke away from everything people associated with Cadillac. That raised, squared-off rear end, inspired by European luxury sedans, clashed directly with the traditional American idea of elegance: long, flowing, and imposing. To many, the car looked unfinished. To others, it simply felt like a design mistake. What's interesting is that, from a positioning standpoint, the Seville had everything needed to succeed. It was compact by Cadillac standards, well-equipped, comfortable, quiet, and refined to drive. But the rear styling became an emotional barrier that many buyers simply couldn't get past. Cadillac wasn't wrong in its intention. It was wrong in its timing. That design required a cultural shift that hadn't happened yet. The market wasn't ready to see Cadillac abandon its traditional proportions in favor of such a rigid, formal visual language. For years, the bustleback Seville was viewed as one of the clearest examples of misunderstood luxury, an expensive, serious, technically sound car, but visually difficult for many people to love. Over time, perception shifted once again. Today, it's seen as a bold experiment, an uncomfortable transition between two eras. It isn't beautiful in the classic sense, but it is deeply representative of a moment when American design was struggling with its identity. In today's collector market, a Seville from this generation typically ranges between $15,000 and $30,000. A car that never intended to provoke, yet became one of the most polarizing designs Cadillac ever produced.